Hello, my name is David Alexander Palomo Quiroz, and in this video I will share with you some important information about translations. We will see some methods that are really useful to translate information from one language to another, as well as we will see some techniques that belongs to each method. So right now let's start with the first method, that is direct translation. Direct translation is defined as the method that in the way that certain elements of one language can be transposed into the target language. Okay, now the direct translation method consists of three elements, three techniques. The first technique is borrowing. Borrowing is defined as the art of taking words from one foreign language and these words are incorporated into another language. So we have to be very careful. These words are not translated. Okay? In the example we will see that pupusas is not translated into another language. So let's say that pupusas cannot be translated into English. So as you can see, the spelling doesn't change. So let's see the next example, which is margaritas. Well, margaritas is an alcoholic drink which is composed of tequila and lemon. So margaritas is a word that cannot be translated in another language. And the last word, tortillas. Tortillas is a word that belongs to borrowing. Now let's see the second technique. The second technique is called calque. Calque is, is a phrase borrowed from another language and translated literally word for word. So in the next example we will see that the flea market is translated as mercado de pulgas. You can see that this is a literal translation. What about líder in English and the translation líder en español? Well, in this word we can appreciate that we copy the pronunciation. We do not make a literal translation. We make a copy of the pronunciation. Let's see the third and last technique that corresponds to direct translation. That is literal translation. Well, in this technique you can infer that words are exactly translated from one language into another. So let's see the examples. You can see that Michael is tall and the translation is Michael es alto. So let's analyze this little sentence. You can notice the noun Michael, the verb is, and the adjective tall. And in Spanish you translate the same elements. You translate the name Michael, you translate the verb is into es, and the adjective tall, alto. So in summary, literal translation is translate exactly the same words from one language to another. Right now let's continue with the oblique translation. Oblique translations, well, this method is used especially when it is not possible to translate literally the words from one language to another. So in this case it is very useful to translate the, translate the meanings, not by using other structure like parts of speech. You can change the parts of speech, but the meaning has to be the same. Now, this method, oblique translation, consists of 3 techniques. Let's see the first technique, which is transposition. Transposition says that in this technique, the different parts of the speech play an important role. In other words, the translation is this: if you use this technique, you have to change the word class that you use, but you don't have to change the meaning. Here we have 2 examples. The student actively participated. Los estudiantes participaron con entusiasmo. In this sentence, you can appreciate that an adverb has become a noun. What is the adverb in the first sentence? Well, actively. And in Spanish is con entusiasmo. Okay, there is a transposition of the words. An adverb becomes noun. In the second sample, he learns quickly. We see that the translation is veloz para aprender. We can notice a little modification in this sentence. For example, an adverb has become an adjective in Spanish. In English we have the adverb quickly, whereas in Spanish we have the adjective veloz. So let's see the second technique that corresponds to oblique translation, which is modulation. Modulation consists of using a phrase that is different in the source and target languages to convey the same idea. Right now, let's see some examples that correspond to this technique. So the first sentence is a sentence that contains an idiom: cats and dog. It is raining cats and dog. Okay, you cannot make a literal translation. The correct translation in Spanish is llueve fuerte. So let's clarify something else. If you use this technique, you have to clarify the meaning of the idioms. Okay, you cannot say están lloviendo gatos y perros. No, it's not possible. Okay, you have to clarify the idiom. Okay, in this case, the idioms refers to rain, a heavy rain. And the second sample, we have the sentence do not delay. In Spanish, date prisa. Okay, here we the sentence changes a little. You can appreciate that in English there is a negative way, do not delay. So the correct translation is date prisa. Okay, and the third technique is equivalence. We can say that equivalence is a reformulation of what people say. For example, here this technique is very similar to the previous one, because we have to translate idioms or advertising slogan. For example, we will see that we have 2 idioms right here: kill 2 birds with 1 stone. The correct translation of these idioms are matar 2 pájaros de un solo tiro, and the last sentence, by hook or by crook, is por las buenas o por las malas. Okay, you can see that you translate the idiom. Okay, and the last technique that corresponds to oblique translation is adaptation. Adaptation is defined as a technique that incorporates different elements in order to give a correct translation. For example, let's see this this translation of the title Die Hard. En español es Duro de Matar. It's not, you can appreciate that it's not a literal translation. We have to use adaptation. So I forgot to tell you that adaptation is the last technique that you can use if you don't find or if you cannot use, or if you cannot translate the first, if you cannot translate a sentence by using the previous techniques. Okay, adaptation is the last resource that you have in your hands. Okay, let's see another example. We have the sound of music, sonrisas y lágrimas. You cannot translate this in a literal way, so the correct translation of this is the sound of music. Okay, this has been David speaking, talking about the different methods and techniques about translation. It has been an opportunity to me to try to explain a little bit about what I know about this. So thank you very much. Bye.